Every insult, every interruption, every pointless comment that somehow manages to ruin your day. You felt it, that flicker of irritation, the rising tension, the sudden emotional storm that throws you off your path. It starts small, but it grows. And before you know it, you're reacting to things that don't deserve your energy. You're giving away power, your power, to people and problems that shouldn't even be on your radar. But what if you didn't? What if you could move through chaos with perfect calm? What if no one's opinion rattled you, no criticism pierced you, and no setback ever knocked you off your center? That's not apathy. That's not weakness. That's mastery. And the strongest minds in history, from philosophers to generals to visionaries like Napoleon Hill, they all understood one thing. Control begins where reaction ends. This isn't about pretending. This is about retraining your mind to stand strong while the world tries to push you over. About building a kind of mental discipline that makes you untouchable, not cold, not distant, but deeply rooted, steady, unshaken. In this video, you'll learn how to stop being controlled by emotion, by noise, by fear, and start controlling your reality instead. I'll show you how to develop presence, how to detach from drama, and how to stop needing validation from anyone. Because once you stop flinching, once you stop reacting, once you master silence, stillness, and strength, you don't just survive the storm, you become the storm. They said something. Maybe it was a joke, maybe it was a look, maybe it was nothing. And yet, it got to you. It always gets to you. That moment where your heartbeat quickens, your body tenses, and without thinking, you react. Words spill out, emotions flare, and before you even realize what happened, you've already given away what was most valuable, your control. You see, the world doesn't need to defeat you in battle. It just needs to make you react. That's how you lose, not with weapons, not with violence, but with one impulsive response at the wrong time. One outburst, one emotional slip, one moment where they press your button and you let them, you hand them power, and they don't even need to ask. Your first reaction is almost always your enemy. It's instinct, not strategy. It's ego, not awareness. It's your untrained mind doing what it's always done, fighting shadows that aren't even there. But when you pause, when you train yourself to breathe before you speak, to observe before you move, everything changes. That pause is your power. It's what separates leaders from followers, calm from chaos, and warriors from reactors. In that space between stimulus and response, you are no longer a puppet of the world. You become the master of yourself. Think of the most powerful people you've ever met. They don't flinch, they don't explain, they don't justify, they pause, they listen, and then they respond, or they don't. And their silence speaks louder than anything they could have said, because in that silence, there's strength, not weakness, not fear. Strength, the kind of strength that makes other people uncomfortable, not because you're intimidating, but because you can't be rattled. And that kind of control, it's rare, it's magnetic, and it's earned. Reactivity is cheap. Anyone can shout back, anyone can throw a tantrum, anyone can explode under pressure. That's not power, that's fragility pretending to be strength. Real power is the man or woman who can walk away from disrespect with their head high and their emotions in check. Not because they're afraid, but because they know better. So the next time someone insults you, disrespects you, challenges you, don't react. Don't feed it. Don't play their game. Step back. Pause. Watch how uncomfortable they get when you give them nothing. Watch how they start to reveal more about themselves than you ever had to say. Because the one who doesn't react, that's the one who's in control. That's the one they remember. That's the one they respect. Something happens, someone says something, an obstacle appears, and in that instant, before your mind can catch up, your body is already reacting. You feel it, the tension, the urge to speak, the fire building in your chest. That space, that tiny moment between what happens and what you do next, that's everything. That's the battlefield. And most people lose the war right there. They don't pause, they don't assess, they just react like clockwork, like programming, like slaves to whatever feeling hits first: anger, embarrassment, ego, pride. But that's the difference between being ruled by the world and ruling your world. The space between stimulus and response is where your power lives or dies. You want to know why some people walk through storms unfazed while others collapse at the first gust of wind? It's not luck. It's not upbringing. It's because they've trained that space. They've built it like a muscle. They've stretched it, strengthened it, made it wider. So when the world pushes, they don't immediately push back. They wait, they watch, they calculate, they choose. That's the word, choose, because most people don't choose. They react. And reacting is not choosing, it's surrendering. But if you want to be untouchable, unshakable, unstoppable, you need to stretch that space. You need to make it sacred. You need to protect it like it holds your future, because it does. When something triggers you and you feel that rise, that spike of emotion, that tightening in your chest, that's the signal. That's not the moment to act. That's the moment to pause, to breathe, to ask, does this deserve me? Most of it doesn't. Most of it is noise. Most of it is a trap. But if you don't build the pause, you fall right into it. You become easy to manipulate, easy to control. One insult and you're raging. One rejection and you're doubting. One inconvenience and your whole day is ruined. That's not strength. That's fragility. That's the world pulling your strings like a puppet. So start small. Train that space. Delay your response by just one breath, then 2, then 5 seconds. In that space, you'll find clarity, you'll find calm, you'll find power, because real power doesn't live in how quickly you react. It lives in how intentionally you respond, and over time, people will notice. They'll try to get a rise out of you and fail. They'll throw chaos your way and watch you stand still. They'll push every button they can find and realize none of them work anymore, because you've mastered the space they never even knew existed, and that's when you become untouchable. You feel it before you even understand it. The heat in your chest, the surge behind your eyes, the pressure building like a storm inside your body. That's emotion. That's your system sounding the alarm. And for most people, that's the moment they lose. Not because someone beat them, not because they failed, but because they couldn't hold the line inside their own mind. Emotion is the easiest way to lose control. Not because emotion is bad, but because it's fast. Faster than thought. Faster than truth, faster than the version of you that knows better. And when you let emotion take the wheel, logic gets thrown in the back seat. You say things you didn't mean. You act in ways you regret. You burn bridges you meant to walk across. That's how people get manipulated. Not by facts, not by truth, but by provocation. The world doesn't have to destroy you. It just needs to make you react. One insult, one delay, one rejection. That's all it takes for most people to throw away their peace, their power, their progress, because they let a temporary feeling decide something permanent. But here's the truth. Feelings are not facts. Feelings pass. Feelings change. And if you act from emotion, you build a life that shifts with the wind. One moment you're confident, the next you're doubting everything. One moment you're calm, the next you're yelling in a parking lot at someone who doesn't even matter. That's not strength, that's chaos dressed up as passion. Real strength comes from restraint, from being able to feel something fully and still choose not to act on it. That doesn't make you cold, that makes you dangerous. Because now, no one can pull you off track with a few careless words. They can scream, they can insult, they can try everything. But if you've trained yourself not to react, they lose their grip. And it's not just about conflict. Emotion gets you in more subtle ways, too. The fear of failure, the rush of excitement, the sting of rejection, those emotions, if unchecked, can make you quit before you even start or jump into something you were never ready for. They blur your vision. They cloud your judgment. They make you mistake movement for progress and noise for meaning. So what do? You slow it down, you feel the emotion rise, and you meet it with stillness. You breathe through it. You don't resist it, but you don't obey it either. You let it pass like a wave, and when the wave crashes and fades, you're still standing, clear, calm, in control. That's how you win. Not by being emotionless, but by being untouchable within your emotions. Not everything deserves your attention. Not every opinion needs a response. Not every battle is yours to fight. But most people don't know that. Most people chase every insult, defend every move, cling to every outcome like their life depends on it. And in doing so, they drain their energy, their peace, their power. Because the truth is simple.
What you hold on to will end up holding you. You can't be free and also be obsessed with control. You can't be peaceful and still be reacting to every minor inconvenience. You can't walk in strength if you're emotionally attached to things that keep you weak. That's why detachment is so important. Not coldness, not indifference, but clarity. The ability to say, this doesn't serve me, and let it go. You are not built to carry everything. You are not meant to take every opinion personally, to hold every grudge, to prove yourself to every doubter. And yet, you've been taught to do just that. You've been trained to take things to heart, to explain yourself, to fight to be understood. But here's the thing, most of it isn't worth it. Most of it is noise. Most of it is distraction dressed up as urgency. Detachment doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you start caring selectively. It means your peace becomes the priority, and anything that threatens it gets evaluated. Does this deserve my energy? Does this align with my goals? Will this matter in 5 days, 5 weeks, 5 years? If the answer is no, you already know what to do. Imagine how powerful you become when you stop responding to nonsense. When you stop justifying yourself to people who already made up their minds, when you stop replaying that conversation from last week or worrying about something that might not even happen. That's mental discipline, that's strength, that's detachment. The people who accomplish the most aren't the ones fighting the most battles. They're the ones choosing them carefully. They're the ones saying no, the ones walking away, the ones who don't flinch when provoked, because they've already decided what's worth their energy and what isn't. So the next time someone tries to pull you into drama, pause. The next time your mind starts spinning with worry, breathe. The next time you feel that pull to argue, to explain, to obsess, step back and ask yourself, is this helping me grow, or is this just stealing my time? Because when you stop clinging to everything, you make space for what really matters. You create room for peace, focus, clarity. You become lighter, faster, stronger, and most importantly, you become harder to reach. Not because you've shut down, but because you've leveled up. And from that place, no one can shake you, because nothing owns you. Everyone wants to be heard. Everyone wants to speak first, speak louder, speak longer. They think power is in the volume, that the one who talks most wins. But here's what they don't understand. Real power doesn't shout. It whispers, or says nothing at all. Silence is dominance, not because it's passive, but because it's deliberate. It's the refusal to be pulled into noise. It's the confidence to observe when everyone else is scrambling to prove something. It's the understanding that the most powerful people in the room aren't always the ones speaking. They're the ones watching. You don't need to respond to everything. You don't need to defend every decision, explain every move, react to every comment. That's what they want you to do. They want you to bite. They want you to justify, to argue, to lower yourself into their chaos. But when you stay silent, when you give them nothing, they don't know what to do with that. And in that confusion, you gain ground. You see, silence isn't weakness, it's strategy, it's control. It makes people wonder what you're thinking. It forces them to guess, and when they guess, they reveal more of themselves than you ever needed to say. They fill the silence with their own insecurities, their own over-explanations, their own unraveling, and you stay still, you stay calm, you stay powerful. Silence shifts the energy. Walk into a room and say nothing, but move with intention. People will feel it. Speak less, but when you do, every word carries weight. That's how you build presence, not by forcing it, but by earning it through discipline and restraint. In conflict, silence is a weapon. They expect a fight, they expect emotion, they expect chaos, but when you give them nothing but calm, you take away their rhythm. You throw them off balance, you rob them of the satisfaction of knowing they got to you. And in silence, you listen. You see things others miss. You pick up on tone, on patterns, on tension. You gain information while revealing none of your own. That's how strategists move. That's how winners play. So train yourself to speak less. Don't react. Don't explain. Don't compete for attention. Let them wonder. Let them talk. Let them run in circles trying to decode your silence. Because while they're busy unraveling, you're busy building. When you move in silence, your actions hit harder. When you speak rarely, your voice lands deeper. And when you don't respond to provocation, people start to realize you're not to be played with. You're composed. you're calculating, you're dangerous, because you've mastered the loudest language in the world, the one that doesn't make a sound. Pressure exposes people. It reveals what's real and what's just for show. Some break, some panic, some lash out and lose control, but the rare few, they stay calm, steady, composed, not because life is easier for them, but because they've trained for the storm. Because they understand that calm under fire isn't luck, it's mastery. The world is always going to test you. Deadlines, rejections, insults, delays, loss. It's not a matter of if, but when. And most people, when that pressure hits, they react. They flinch, they explode, they scramble. And in that chaos, they make mistakes. They say things they can't take back. They burn through their energy and fall apart. But not you, not anymore. Because when you realize that pressure is a guarantee, not a glitch, you stop being surprised by it. You stop resisting it. You start preparing for it. And the preparation doesn't happen in the moment. It happens every day. In how you think, in how you breathe, in how you refuse to let emotions hijack your clarity. Calm is not weakness. Calm is not submission. Calm is a weapon. It's what gives you vision when others are blinded by emotion. It's what allows you to think straight when everyone else is making impulsive moves. And that's when the advantage becomes clear, because the calmest person in the room is always the one in control. Think of the people you admire, not the loud ones, not the panicked ones, the ones who walk through fire like it's nothing, the ones who speak slowly in chaos, the ones who don't lose themselves when everything goes wrong. That's not by accident. That's earned, that's trained, that's built in the small, quiet moments when no one's watching. So the next time you feel that rush, that tension, that urge to explode, pause. Let it pass. Remind yourself, this isn't personal. This is the test. This is the moment I've been training for. And while others lose themselves trying to force control, you become more dangerous by letting go. You don't control the world, you don't control what happens, but you control your state, your breath, your posture, your pace. That's all you need, that's all that matters, because when you stay calm, you see the game, you stay in command, you respond with intention instead of reaction, and in doing that, you rise above the fire, you walk through it, untouched, unbothered. They won't understand how you didn't flinch. They'll call it cold, they'll call it lucky, they'll call it fake, but deep down, they'll wish they had it too, because real power doesn't yell. Real power doesn't panic. Real power doesn't break. It breathes. Motivation is a feeling. Discipline is a decision. And that difference, that's everything. Because motivation is there when things feel good, when the sun is shining, when the plan is exciting. But when it's hard, when it's boring, when it's cold, when no one's watching, motivation disappears. It runs, it hides. And if that's all you've got, you're done. That's why you need discipline. Not the loud kind, not the military kind, the quiet kind. The kind that keeps showing up when nothing makes sense. The kind that acts without applause. The kind that doesn't need hype or music or quotes or someone yelling, "Let's go." Discipline that's built like a wall, brick by brick, choice by choice, moment by moment, because your emotions will lie to you. They'll tell you to stop. They'll tell you it's too hard. They'll tell you it's not fair. But discipline doesn't listen. Discipline doesn't care how you feel. It cares what you committed to. It cares what your goal was when your head was clear. And emotional discipline, that's a different level. It's not just about getting up early or doing the reps. It's about not letting your mood run your life. It's about making decisions from clarity, not chaos. It's about holding the line, not just when you're tired, but when you're angry, when you're anxious, when you're scared. Because if you only act when it feels good, you'll never be consistent. And without consistency, you'll never be great. Think about it. How many times have you set a goal, only to fall off the moment things got hard? How many plans have you abandoned because you didn't feel like it? That's not failure. That's just emotional inconsistency. And it's not a character flaw, it's a habit. A habit you can change by training discipline. You train it by showing up even when your mind says don't. You train it by choosing calm when emotion wants to explode. You train it by sticking to your principles when your feelings want to drag you somewhere else. That's the quiet fight. That's the internal war. And that's where the strong are made. Motivation is loud. It comes in waves. But discipline is silent. And that silence, that's power. Because while others wait to feel ready, you're already moving. While they're distracted by emotion, you're locked in. While they hesitate, you execute. So next time your mind tells you to quit, remind yourself, this is the test. This is the exact moment where power is built. Not later. Not when it feels right. Now. Because the person who can act without emotion, the person who can keep going without hype, that person can do anything. And when the world sees your results, they'll call it discipline. But you'll know it was emotional control. You spend too much time in their heads, not yours, the way they look at you, what they might be saying. Whether they like you, whether they approve, you shape your words, your clothes, your dreams around their expectations. You hesitate, you shrink, you explain yourself, and for what? For people who don't even know your full story? For opinions that change with the wind? For strangers who would forget you tomorrow if you disappeared? You're not here to be understood by everyone. You're not here to be liked by everyone, and the truth is, not everyone will. No matter how perfect you try to be, someone will always misunderstand. Someone will always judge. That's not your problem. That's their lens. That's their projection. That's their fear wearing your name. Because what they think, it doesn't matter. What you believe, that's everything. You see, confidence isn't built from applause. It's built from alignment. When your actions match your values, when your path reflects your purpose, when you stop twisting yourself to fit in and start standing tall in who you already are. And that scares people, because when you don't chase approval, you can't be controlled. When you stop seeking validation, you become magnetic. You're no longer bending for their praise. You're walking your truth, unshaken by the noise. The people who achieve the most, who lead, who rise, they're not the ones checking comments or asking permission. They're the ones so locked into their own mission that outside opinion becomes irrelevant. Not because they don't care, but because they've chosen what to care about. That's power. You have to decide who owns your self-worth, them or you. If it's them, then every whisper breaks you. Every insult pulls you off course. But if it's you, if your value is set internally, then nothing they say can move you. You could be winning and they'll say you're arrogant. You could be quiet and they'll say you're weak. You could be vulnerable and they'll say you're soft. Let them talk. Let them guess. Let them be loud. You stay focused. Stay grounded. Stay aligned. Because their judgment is a reflection of them. And your peace is a reflection of you. So stop asking for permission to be yourself. Stop waiting for applause to validate your moves. Stop letting the outside world vote on your internal truth. They don't get a say. Not anymore. What you believe about yourself will always outweigh what they assume about you. And when you finally stop giving them the pen, you start writing your own story. That's when the shift happens. That's when you become unshakable. Not because everyone agrees with you, but because it no longer matters if they do. You don't need to argue, ever. Not because you can't win, but because there's nothing to win. Most arguments aren't about truth. They're about ego. Two people trying to outshout each other, trying to be right, trying to dominate. And when you step into that ring, you've already lost. Not because your facts are wrong, but because you gave away your peace. That's the trap. They bait you. They poke you. They say something outrageous just to get a reaction. And if you respond, if you bite, if you fire back, you fall into their game. You feed it, you legitimize it, and worse, you start playing by their rules. But the one who doesn't argue, the one who listens, pauses, and walks away without a word, that person commands respect. Not because they shouted the loudest, but because they stayed above it. You see, when you argue, you explain. You justify, you overcompensate, you bring yourself down to the level of someone who isn't trying to understand. They're trying to win. And that's not a conversation. That's a contest of pride. And pride always demands more than it gives. People will try to drag you in. Online, at work, in relationships, they'll throw shade, twist your words, question your intentions. Don't flinch, don't defend, let them talk. Let them assume, let them reveal who they are while you remain exactly who you are. Because silence in the face of provocation is louder than anything you could say. It unsettles people. It forces them to wrestle with their own noise. They expected resistance. They wanted a fight, but you gave them nothing. And in that nothing, they lose power. It doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're focused. You've chosen not to pour energy into battles that don't serve your mission. You've decided that your emotional energy is worth more than proving a point to someone who never planned to listen in the first place. So the next time someone comes at you sideways, ask yourself, am I trying to be heard or am I trying to be free? Because freedom doesn't come from winning arguments. It comes from not needing to argue at all. There's peace in restraint, there's strength in silence, there's clarity in letting go of the need to prove yourself. You're not here to convince the world, you're here to build yourself. And every second spent arguing is a second stolen from your growth. Let them misunderstand you. Let them be loud. Let them assume whatever helps them sleep at night. Because while they're shouting into the void, you're walking towards something real. And in the end, it's not the person who yelled the most who wins. It's the one who moved forward, quietly, intentionally, powerfully, without looking back. They didn't yell. They didn't panic. They didn't chase applause. The Stoics, men like Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, Seneca, they moved through life with a quiet fire, not because they lacked emotion, but because they refused to be ruled by it. And in that stillness, in that discipline, they discovered something most people never do: peace. The world today is louder than ever. Opinions everywhere, noise everywhere, pressure to react, to comment, to respond instantly. But the Stoic mindset teaches something radical. You don't have to react to everything. You don't have to play every game. You don't have to attend every argument you're invited to. You can be deliberate. You can choose silence. You can master your own mind. That's the Stoic advantage. It's not about coldness. It's about control, emotional control, mental clarity, the ability to say, I see what's happening and I choose not to be shaken by it. That's strength. That's composure. And in a world addicted to drama, that kind of stillness is rare. The Stoics believed that suffering doesn't come from what happens to you. It comes from how you interpret it. The event isn't the problem. Your story about the event is, your reaction is, your attachment is. So they trained themselves every day to pause, to think, to remain unmoved, not disconnected, but elevated. Imagine that. Imagine walking through your life with that kind of grace. Traffic doesn't ruin your day. Insults don't pierce your peace. Delays, cancellations, criticism, they don't shake you, because you've already decided that your inner world is sacred, off limits, untouchable. That's not theory. That's training. That's habit. That's practice. And it starts with awareness, with catching yourself before you spiral, with noticing when your emotions try to hijack your clarity, and choosing differently. The Stoics journaled every day, not to vent, but to refine. They reviewed their actions. They asked, where did I overreact today? Where did I let my lower self lead? Not with shame, but with discipline, with a desire to grow, and in that reflection, they became stronger. So how does this help you? It gives you a framework, a way to live, a mindset that keeps you grounded when things fall apart, because they will. No philosophy stops the storm, but Stoicism teaches you how to stand in the middle of it, calm and composed, while everyone else is running for cover. And when people see that, when they see you unshaken, unbothered, unflinching, they won't know what to call it, but they'll feel it, that presence, that power, that stillness. That's the Stoic advantage. You don't need to react, you don't need to rush, you just need to return to yourself, because in a world built on reaction, stillness becomes a superpower. You did the work. You gave your energy, your focus, your effort. You prepared, you showed up. But the result? It didn't land. The door stayed shut. The call never came. The outcome wasn't what you expected. And now your mind is racing. Was it worth it? Did I fail? Should I have done more? This is where most people break. Not from the process, but from the attachment to how they thought it would all play out. Letting go of the outcome isn't giving up. It's rising above. It's understanding a deeper truth. You don't control the result. You only control your input. And when you become obsessed with results, you lose the joy of the work. You lose the peace of the present. You lose yourself. Attachment is pressure. It's neediness disguised as ambition. It's building your self-worth on something that may or may not happen. And when it doesn't, you collapse. You spiral. You think it means something about you. It doesn't. What it means is simple. Something else is coming, or something needed to be learned. But you'll only see that if you step back, if you detach, if you stop gripping so tightly to how you thought it was supposed to be. Because the truth is, you're not in control of timing. You're not in control of how others respond. You're not in control of the market, the weather, the reaction, the outcome. You're in control of one thing: how you show up. And if you do that with integrity, with consistency, with full presence, you've already won. The results will take care of themselves. Maybe not today, maybe not in the way you expected, but they will. And if you keep showing up with no need to chase, no need to force, no need to beg, that's power. That's freedom. Letting go doesn't mean you stop trying. It means you stop suffering. You stop tying your worth to things you can't command. You do the work, and then you release it. You send the email and you move on. You make the call and you let it go. You plant the seed and you trust the soil. Because when you stop needing it to happen a certain way, you open yourself to something better, something you didn't plan, but something that fits even more perfectly than you imagined. The ones who go furthest aren't the ones who grip the tightest. They're the ones who flow, who adapt, who trust the process more than the outcome. So give your best, but then walk away with your peace intact. Not because you don't care, but because you care wisely. Because the moment you let go of what you can't control, you unlock what you've been searching for all along: freedom. The world around you is loud, unpredictable, fast. People change, plans shift. Life throws things at you without warning. And if you're not grounded, you get swept up in it. You become reactive, anxious, overwhelmed. You try to manage everything on the outside, hoping that if you can just control it all, then you'll feel okay. But it doesn't work like that. The outer world will never calm down for you. It's not designed to. That's why your real power isn't out there. It's in here. Control the inner world, and the outer one starts to follow. Your thoughts, your breath, your beliefs, your responses. That's where you begin. That's the foundation. Because when your mind is steady, you stop getting pulled in every direction. You stop living at the mercy of circumstance. You become the calm in the chaos, not because the storm disappeared, but because you stopped letting it inside. Most people live backward. They think, if everything around me is good, then I'll feel good. But the truth is, if everything inside you is good, then what's around you matters less. You carry your peace into it. You carry your focus into it. And the environment bends to match your energy, not the other way around. You've felt it before, those moments where you were clear, unshaken, focused. And suddenly the room felt different. People treated you differently. Things seemed to fall into place. That wasn't luck. That was your inner world shaping your outer experience. That's what the great leaders, athletes, and thinkers all understand. They don't just train their bodies. They train their minds. They don't just prepare for the world. They prepare themselves to meet the world, no matter how it comes. So what does that look like? It means starting the day by grounding yourself before the world gets a vote. It means noticing your thoughts instead of becoming them. It means breathing through tension instead of reacting to it. It means choosing calm over control, clarity over chaos, presence over panic. And over time, this becomes your baseline, your normal. While others are thrown off by every shift in the wind, you remain still. Not emotionless, but anchored. Not perfect, but present. And when challenges come, and they will, you won't need to scramble for strength. It will already be there, built quietly, daily, on the inside. So stop trying to fix everything out there. Start building in here, because the world mirrors what you carry, and when your inner world is clear, calm, and focused, the outer world starts to respond in kind. Not because you forced it to, but because you no longer need it to. You don't need their approval. You think you do, but you don't. You were told that being liked means you're doing something right, that being accepted means you're worthy, that if enough people clap for you, you must be on the right path. But here's the truth. The need for approval is the root of weakness. Because when you need someone's validation, you've already given them power over you. You've handed them the keys to your self-worth. And if they like you, you feel high. If they don't, you fall. That's not confidence. That's dependency, and anything you depend on to feel whole owns you. You can't lead and seek approval at the same time. You can't chase your purpose while constantly looking over your shoulder, wondering if people are still clapping. You can't speak truth and expect everyone to like you for it. Some won't, some never will. And that's fine, because approval is cheap. It shifts with mood. It disappears the moment you stop pleasing. One wrong move, one wrong word, and the same people who cheered for you will turn. And if your identity is built on their applause, you'll collapse with it. But the moment you stop needing it, you become dangerous, not reckless, not heartless, but untouchable. Because now you're moving from principle, not permission, from clarity, not consensus. You don't need them to see you. You've already seen yourself. And that kind of presence, that kind of stillness, people feel it, even if they don't understand it. They can't manipulate it. They can't shake it. And deep down, they respect it because it's rare. Look around. Most people are performing, filtering their words, their choices, even their dreams through the lens of what others might think. That's a prison. A beautiful one, maybe, but a prison all the same. You're not here to be understood by everyone. You're not here to please the crowd. You're here to build, to grow, to lead. And leadership requires standing alone sometimes. It requires silence in the face of judgment. It requires the kind of strength that says, even if you don't get it, I'm still going. So ask yourself honestly, whose approval are you still chasing? Whose voice is in your head? Whose opinions are shaping your life? And then let them go. Because the ones who truly matter won't need you to shrink. They won't demand that you dilute yourself. They'll see you fully and still stand beside you. The rest, they were never your people to begin with. Approval is fleeting, but self-respect is permanent. And when you finally stop asking for applause, you can finally hear your own voice. That's when you start living, not for them, but for something real. You failed, it didn't go your way. You gave everything you had, and it still fell apart. The plan unraveled. The opportunity slipped through your hands. You stumbled. You fell. And now your mind is spinning with stories. Maybe I'm not cut out for this. Maybe I was never good enough. Maybe I should quit. But stop. Breathe. Look closer. Failure is not the problem. It never was. The problem is what you believe about failure. The problem is that you think it says something about you, about your identity, your worth, your future, but it doesn't. Not unless you let it, because failure isn't final. It's feedback. It's instruction. It's life handing you a mirror and saying, look here, there's something to learn. And if you're strong enough to look, strong enough to feel the sting without turning away, then you'll find gold inside the rubble. Every great leader, every true success, every master of anything, they failed. Repeatedly, publicly, painfully. But the difference is they didn't let it define them. They didn't wrap their identity around the outcome. They didn't say, I failed, so I must be a failure. They said, I failed, so now I know more than I did yesterday. That's the mindset. That's the shift. You stop fearing failure when you start using it. When you see it not as a door slamming shut, but as a detour with better directions. When you realize that pain is not punishment, it's information, it's refinement, it's the price of wisdom. But if you take failure personally, if you let it crush your spirit, if you let it convince you that you were never enough, you miss the whole point. You give power to something that was never meant to break you, only to shape you. So next time you fall short, don't spiral. Study. Ask, what did I miss? What can I adjust? What needs more time? What needs to go? Approach it like a scientist, not a victim. Like a builder, not a broken soul. Because if you keep showing up, keep learning, keep evolving, failure has no power over you. You become resilient, you become wiser, you become sharper with every hit. And eventually, the same situations that used to wreck you won't even touch you. Not because you got lucky, but because you grew. Let others fear rejection. Let them hide from mistakes. Let them only act when they're guaranteed to win. That's not your path. You're not here to avoid falling. You're here to become the kind of person who rises anyway. And when people see you keep going, scarred, humbled, focused, they'll ask how you do it. But you'll already know. Because failure didn't define you. It refined you. Most people train their bodies, but forget their minds. They lift weights, run miles, count reps, But when life hits them with doubt, rejection, or fear, they crumble. Not because they're weak, but because they never trained for it. They never built mental strength. They never prepared for the real battle, the one that happens inside. If you want to become unshakable, you have to train like a warrior and think like a philosopher. The warrior shows up, no matter the weather, no matter the mood, no matter how tired, how hurt, how far behind they feel, they show up. Because to the warrior, discipline isn't optional, it's identity. It's not about motivation, it's about mission. And that mission doesn't wait for perfect conditions. The philosopher, on the other hand, watches, questions, thinks deeply, doesn't react emotionally to everything, doesn't get pulled into every argument or every drama. The philosopher sees through illusion, understands perspective, learns from pain without becoming bitter. They know the mind shapes the experience, not the other way around. And when you combine those two, the discipline of the warrior with the clarity of the philosopher, you become something rare. You become someone who acts with power but thinks with depth, someone who moves forward without rushing, someone who remains calm while taking massive action, someone who can face the storm and still think clearly inside it. That's the training. Every day, whether you feel like it or not, you build habits that serve you. You push through resistance. You embrace repetition. You journal. You reflect. You correct yourself when you slip. You don't wait for the world to give you peace. You build it from the inside. And when your mind says, I can't, you don't argue, you don't debate, you just keep going. You remind yourself that voice is not the truth, it's a test. And the more you ignore it, the quieter it becomes. So train, read, think, reflect, act, then repeat, over and over until your default is strength, until your baseline is stillness, until your inner world becomes so sharp, so clear, so stable that nothing outside of you can shake it. People will notice. They'll see the way you move, the way you stay calm, the way you don't explain, don't chase, don't flinch. They won't know what to call it, but they'll respect it, because strength that's built in silence is impossible to fake. You won't need to announce it. You'll embody it. That's the way of the modern warrior. That's the mind of the quiet philosopher. Together, they make you unstoppable. Stop telling everyone what you're going to do. Stop explaining your goals. Stop announcing your next move before it's made, because the louder you speak about it, the more energy you waste on words and the less you have left for action. Real power moves in silence. The strongest people don't broadcast their intentions. They build in private. They train in the dark. They plan when no one's looking. And when the time comes, they execute without warning. No build-up, no performance, just results. You see, every time you announce your plans, you invite resistance. You open the door for opinions, doubts, distractions. You give people a chance to misunderstand, to discourage, to poke holes in something that isn't ready yet. And worse, you give your own ego a reason to relax. Because talking about the work tricks your brain into thinking you've already done it. But when you stay silent, you stay dangerous, you stay focused. No one knows what's coming. No one knows how much you've grown. No one sees you until it's too late. That's the advantage. Build quietly, improve silently, rise privately. Let your progress speak for you. Let the results echo so loudly they don't need an introduction. People won't ask what you're working on. They'll ask how you did it. And the answer will be simple. I stopped talking. I started doing. This doesn't mean you isolate. It doesn't mean you move in secrecy out of fear. It means you move with intent, with discipline, with clarity, because your energy is too valuable to spend on validation. You don't need applause. You don't need permission. You don't need to post every win or explain every loss. The world doesn't need to know your vision until it becomes real. And when it does, they'll see it. They'll see it in your presence, in your progress, in the way you carry yourself, not with arrogance, but with certainty, because nothing is more powerful than someone who doesn't need to prove anything. So start keeping more to yourself. Let them underestimate you. Let them forget you. Let them think you're standing still. Then surprise them with how far you've come, not to shock them, but to free yourself. Because the more you act and the less you announce, the more you reclaim your power. The the more you build momentum, and the more you realize you never needed the attention. You just needed the work. Let others chase approval. Let others talk before they move. Let others promise what they never deliver. You deliver. Quietly, ruthlessly, without warning. Some people are born with money. Some are born with talent. Some are born with status, connections, advantage. But no one is born unshakable. That's earned, that's built, that's fought for, quietly, daily, over years. Unshakable isn't a gift, it's a decision to take control of your emotions, to stop reacting, to stop needing, to stop giving your power away every time life tests you. It's a mindset, one forged in discomfort, in disappointment, in discipline, one that gets stronger every time you choose not to break. You weren't handed peace, you created it. You built it from chaos, from the storm, from failure, from pressure, from nights when no one believed in you, not even yourself. And you kept going anyway. That's what makes you untouchable. Not perfection, not confidence, but persistence. You learned to stay calm when everything went wrong. You learned to listen when others shouted. You learned to walk away from fights that weren't worth it. You learned to carry yourself like someone who has nothing to prove. And that kind of control, that's not given. That's built. People might not understand it. They'll say you changed. They'll say you're cold, that you don't care. But what they don't see are the scars beneath your calm, the battles behind your silence, the weight you had to carry just to become light enough to rise. And you didn't do it for them. You did it because you were tired of being ruled by the world, tired of being pushed by emotion, tired of giving your peace away to people who never earned it. So you stepped back, you looked inward, and you trained for stillness, for presence, for power. Now you walk differently. You speak less. You pause longer. You no longer chase because you don't have to. You no longer flinch because you've seen worse. You no longer explain because you've accepted that not everyone is supposed to get it. That's what unshakable looks like. It's not loud. It's not showy. It doesn't beg to be noticed. It just is. People feel it in your presence, in your pace, in the way you move through chaos like it's just another room. And when they ask how you stay so composed, so calm, so above it all, you won't need to answer because they'll already know. You earned this. And now that you have it, you'll never give it away again.